Welcome to the Revere Art Community on the RAC podcast, a bi-monthly series brought to you by the Revere Art Community at Las Carentas and Chocolate Cafe, where we sit and talk with artists from the Revere community about how they do what they do and sometimes why they do it, with a little bit of focus on making sure that they're able to market and make a little bit of income from this. Welcome to On the RAC. We welcome artists of all backgrounds, ages, abilities, and experience levels. Every story matters. Every voice deserves to be heard. We create a safe, respectful space for artistic expression. We honor the rich tapestry of culture that we call Revere, our home, and we recognize that art is a powerful bridge between communities. Again, welcome to On the Rack. Hello and welcome to On the Rack. I'm Brian Harkins with the Revere Art Community, and today we've got special guests with us that live and know Revere very well. We have State Rep Jessica Giannino. Say hi, Jess.
Hello.
And we have State Rep Jeffrey Turco. Hello to Jeff.
How are you?
We are talking. Oh, I'm sorry.
Nice to be with you.
You're welcome. Thank you. We're talking today about a program for local arts and community engagement, the PLACE Act, which is a wise investment for the state of Massachusetts to take and bring on to help fund arts and culture in the communities through the state of Massachusetts. Basically, it is 0.5% of $300,000 max for any projects that the State General Construction Fund creates. And we're able to timeline that from today out to 10 years into the future. And it provides a persistent, reliable income where projects can be planned and developed specifically for the cities of Revere. And this is what we're going to talk about today. So either of you like to start first?
We're in your district. I defer to you, Representative.
Yeah, no, this is, thank you for organizing this, Brian. This is
You're welcome.
Important piece of legislation. I think all of us agree that art is very important. And the challenge always is, how do you fund it? And when cities and towns in the Commonwealth have economic difficulties, one of the first things that gets thrown out is music and arts, and then we don't realize what we don't have until it's too late. And so this is an opportunity to say the Commonwealth is going to put its money where its mouth is, that as we do construction projects, we're going to earmark a specific percentage, 0.5 of 1% of the construction budget towards the arts that can then be redistributed around the Commonwealth to promote art in our communities. And so I'm very excited about it.
And the important part about that was that it's shared throughout the Commonwealth. But there's a stipulation in this bill. You have to be ready and set to go after it when it comes up, hopefully in 2027. Boston, Cambridge, Somerville have all lined up their arts community, their cultural community. They understand that they have a board in place, and it's just though we have a board with a bunch of names, we have an idea of what type of projects we want to do that are going to represent fairly the city of Revere throughout its vast, complex, multicultural, multi-talented individuals that are out there that can provide, and other individuals from the surrounding areas that work in Revere or perform in Revere or communicate with Revere. It all adds up. So what it means basically is we can now plan realistically rather than depending on grants. This will be funds where the art itself is purchased by the state and they own it, but the intellectual rights are owned by the artist creator of it. So there is no grant money that can be pushed into other projects where legislation inside of the community feels that it's more important than what the arts and culture are. This is specifically for art and culture to represent our community. Jesse took this project on. How long ago was it now?
It's been several sessions now, but it's a great piece of legislation. I know anything that MAPC works on, they have solid bones and are ready to, make something that's accessible for multiple municipalities. So even though this is not a Revere specific initiative, the city of Revere is a perfect place for something like this to happen.
Oh, the crossroads of it.
Absolutely. And I think, when we talk about what Rep Turco and I do, everything we do is a collaboration between our local government, us in the state house with our state senator, and the federal government. And this is one of those pieces of legislation that we need everyone's buy-in and everyone's participation to make this really successful for our city. because we know art is such a great equalizer. It knows no boundaries. It doesn't have income disparities. It doesn't matter what language you speak. Everyone, or your age, everyone in our community can participate in art. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful in a place like Revere with so many new residents. It's a great way to come in and get involved in a community if you have a language barrier, if you're insecure about meeting people of your own age, whether you're 10 or 90.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can participate in art, and everyone brings their own talents and skills to the space. So I'm really excited to work on something like this with Rep Turco, and to have a partner like you that's pushing it on the municipal side and getting the artists together.
Well, that's one of the things we really need to work on the municipal side. There's 330 members in the Revere art community, and love to go on Facebook and click the button, but they don't all do the email. They don't all reach out to their state reps, their senator, their congressman. This is a bill that needs to be pushed, but it also needs to be pushed locally towards City Hall. I know Patrick Keefe, the mayor, is positive about this. City Planning Department is positive about this. So we need to push positive information and positive what we feel as a community to the city councilors for this type of support that they can give us to get this bill through and move forward. How do you feel it's working through the House? And what, as a community, can we in Revere do to help bolster it to get through? Either of you.
I mean, I think we're just being blunt right now.
You have
I
to
think
be.
We're looking at some difficult economic times. Our revenue numbers are coming in better than we've expected over the last 12 months. But the downside is we're expecting a $3 billion reduction in federal aid over the next 2 fiscal years.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're talking to our colleagues about, particularly the people on Ways and Means, about bills that have a price tag to it, they're a little jiggy right now about pushing things forward. So we have to continue to talk to them about investments and return on investments, because that's how they, when you get people to reframe it as, hey, we're not just spending more money on a project, we're going to make sure that there's a return on investment in our communities. And that's the piece that Jess and I are really working collaboratively on and trying to get our colleagues to understand. And
would you consider that the economic world surrounding the arts and culture is a large piece?
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, we've talked about, in the months leading up to this podcast, we've talked about the economic benefits, in impetus of what art does in a community, not just for nostalgia, not just for, people feeling good about the community, but the economic drivers that it brings in.
And that's one of the key things in Boston, Somerville, and Cambridge is their art and culture that is strong and supportive. Revere's trying to be a place, this destination location. We've pushed it through the World Cup. We need to continue to push that with the arts. We're a train ride away, and that train ride can mean dollars and cents in the city of Revere because it's the MBTA. That's a state-owned entity. They're going to redo all 3 of the stations to go through Revere in the upcoming years. That means income. They all hit the max of $300,000. The push to, I would think, anyone in legislation that you're talking about is the return on investment part. That is the key to this bill, and it's predictable, and it's 0.5%. That is a rounding error. Imagine having a brand new kitchen and you remodel it, and you took 0.5%. What's it? 7,585. So you have about $70,000 or so to remodel, and you put it aside, a piece of that, just do special backsplash, special lights. It's the topping. And no one's going to argue, oh, no, you can't do that. It gives you a better return, better resale. And that's what we have here. Our challenge is when it gets local level, that it gets pushed into other places, arts and dollar funds.
I'll give you an example, Brian, where this has happened in the past. In 1990, when the State House did a rehab of the State House, and they created the Great Hall. And as part of the legislation that was signed into law for the Great Hall, they earmarked a certain percentage of the construction budget had to go towards art. And so now you go into the State House on a given day, and there are receptions there every day. There are people, every school group goes there to visit it. They press the button on the touchscreen TV to see where their city or town's flag is. They learn about the history of their community through what's on the board. They see that they're part of a greater Commonwealth with 351 cities and towns. Inevitably, we get children say to us, well, how come that some of these flagpoles don't have a flag on it? You get to explain either A, they refuse to provide the flag, or B, they don't have a municipal flag. And it because Speaker Kavarian, in the leadership of the House and Senate back then with the governor, said, we're going to make sure we do this, we're going to dedicate money towards art, we're getting the benefit all these years later, 36 years.
So in essence, what they did is they took a little bit of money, redid the State House and make it more tourism friendly,
Right.
to create income. Can you imagine all 3 of our stations in Revere with some sort of very dramatic, wonderful looking piece of art that represents our communities, represents our cities? That's going to be a draw into our communities from the very edge of the ocean where that train track runs. Pull it in, see the Shirley Ave area, go down and see the waterfront area for what's there, or the North Shore, or even in the end of Elliott Circle up where the creative zone district that Revere is trying to work on. Dollars can be used for things like that, but the only way it's going to happen is if you take and I will put up a QR code at the end of this that'll send you to reaching out to these representatives and being able to take and voice your support when we take and push this towards City Hall. Please come talk about why it's important and what can be better for Revere than providing dollars for itself and allowing it to be able to make the determination of what becomes of those dollars through the interactive process of state reps, funding from the state to the city of Revere. The city of Revere then takes and spreads out what it has and lets people interact to have a voice where their community and what they see in themselves and what they see in their community, be it the senior center, the historic, the library, all the groups that are out there, performances, get to be able to push towards doing something that represents them as a whole.
I think that's a great point too, Brian. Outside of the logistics of the bill that we already talked about, I think it's important to give people outside of this world a little bit of context in terms of what we're really saying when we explain this. So keep in mind, there are multiple wheels turning at the same time. Again,
Yes.
There's the city wheel, there's the state wheel that we're a part of, and there's the federal wheel. So in the State House, if you live in the city of Revere, you're already supported by your state delegation. But those letters are helpful, especially, I will say, we're at the end of our legislative session. So chances are, if it hasn't happened yet, most legislation will likely carry on to the next session. Totally normal, especially a bill of this size and this scope. But when hearings come up next session, that's when this is going to be so important that the art community comes out and submits letters, submits their stories. And I'll say, as a legislator, and I know Rep. Turco can attest to this, we love hearing your story. We love hearing how art changed your life, why this is so important to you, to our future generations, and to our residents. So first and foremost, when it comes to a hearing, submitting written testimony is incredibly important. In terms of the state level, since you already have our buy-in and have us on board. If you have friends that are artists in other communities, getting them to reach out to their state delegation so their reps reach out. Because at the end of the day, if 3 or 4 people call us on an issue, we're looking into it. We get thousands and thousands of one-click emails. Those mean nothing. But it's the personal stories when someone says, Jessica, when Brian reaches out and says, Jessica, this is my life. This is my career. This is what gave me what I have today. This matters to me. And that's why Rep. Turco and I are sitting here today, because we know how deeply important and personal this is to you.
Oh, I've fought for this since when Patrick Duvall did the percentage for the art program 8 years ago and screamed and yelled. And then, we tried and that left after he left. And then we saw this 2+ years ago, and then you jumped on it as a co-sponsor of the bill. And then Jeffrey learned about it, and he is supportive of the bill. They reached out to Lydia Edwards, and she's supportive of the bill. We've got this side of our muscle ready. We need to, as a community, reach out to our community elective officials about what we feel, reach out to our state rep officials, and then finally make some noise about what this is about. If you're an influencer, however, or what you do, an artist, a poet, written words, we've just had come into Revere a guy that is associated with everybody. Doug Holder, he's coming from Harvard and MIT. He's got the Ebbetson Press. He's now starting a circle of writers here. I was at a thing, I felt like I was at like the dean's party. There were professors, doctors, all in just the arts. So Revere is changing from that unique little piece to the performances that happen out here in the square, to what goes on to the beach, all the way down to the other end. We want to continue that and make it represent everybody.
Brian, if I could, one other point to follow up on Rep. Giannino is she talked about next session for the committee hearings. One of the things that we've sort of taken the lead on in the House is greater transparency. And as part of that transparency and openness to the public is every member of the public for every committee hearing can participate via Zoom. So if you can't get into Boston to come in and testify live and in person, some people prefer that, but you can now get the art community to participate. When a hearing happens, we'll let you know, you could share the information, we'll share it. And then any member of the public can sign online and then actually go on Zoom and testify. And I think that's critical, because if the committee hearing process is overwhelmed by the artist community around the Commonwealth coming out saying this is important to us, you don't have to drive. Particularly, it's easy for people in Revere and Winthrop and this area to get to Boston, but there are a lot of artists, excuse me, a lot of artists in Pittsfield and in North Adams and in Lenox, Mass, or Lee, Mass, that it's a 3-hour ride to get to Boston. You can engage them and get them to now participate via Zoom for these hearings, and it's a great opportunity to participate in government, but also to push this important piece of legislation.
And who provides that link?
The committee does. So once we'll let you know when the committee
Right there, let them know.
Yeah, once we know when the bill gets scheduled for a hearing next session. So what'll happen is, the elections happen in November. The new legislature gets sworn in the beginning of January. Committees get organized sometime, typically in February, late February, early March, after our rules are done, and then the committees will start to schedule hearings on bills. In the bills, these bills that were, the face bill will be refiled in January, actually in December. And then some point in the spring, there'll be a committee hearing, and we'll share information. Maybe we'll do another podcast. We'll share with Brian. We'll put it on Facebook and get the message out as best we can. And then that way you can do it, Brian, as well, for the communities that you're involved with, the artists, the 300 plus artists that are in Revere alone. If 100 of them show up for a hearing, they make a difference, because people are shocked.
Major league. And it's not just artists in Revere. Revere Chamber of Commerce people. Revere, any club I belong to, Revere Yacht Club. There's something for everybody as a community of Revere. That's what we represent, and that's who needs to be represented if this comes through. So when we do, and I believe do get the funds one day, that we'll be able to take and tell our story and save stories that are passing away from us and introduce new stories that are coming into our world, and be able to develop and have a control over the state making the decision of what happens with art and culture in our communities.
And if I could, one example of where that works with people coming, Rep. Giannino and I were involved with legislation that's now state law to mandate financial literacy in our schools, in a high school requirement. And, we were at the hearing. The room was flooded, overflowing with students from around the Commonwealth, including from Revere, that said, this is important. These are basic life skills that you shouldn't be able to graduate high school without. And so a combination of legislators pushing the bill, educators pushing the bill, but students as the consumer going there and saying, this is why this is important, is why that's the law in the Commonwealth today. And it's going to be the same thing for the art community. And
that's what is needed, is a representative of the student communities, from the youngest to the oldest, to be part of this board, because they are the future. They think different than us, but it's still artistically their future. So they should have a seat at the window of this board when this takes and occurs. So what do you think will be our biggest challenge? I personally think we'll get into the next session, but then we've got to have our plan together and be ready to be able to support.
I definitely think having MAPC being one of the main sponsors of the bill is so important. When you have the buy-in from statewide organizations, whether it's the Cultural Council, whether it's MAPC, they give...
MAPC, Mass Area Planning Commission.
Yes.
Just to make sure we're throwing out numbers and letters. We want to make sure. Go ahead.
But these statewide organizations are organizations that reps from our area out to Pittsfield and to the Cape and Islands are familiar with.
Yeah.
So when they know that this is an endorsed piece of legislation by an organization they trust, and on top of that are getting calls from constituents in their district, it moves it to the top of their priority, because there's some bit of safety that says, okay, this has been vetted, it's tried and true, and we know that this is something that other groups have faith in and are going to work, versus one lone person pushing an issue. So I think, since this is one of those bills that's been kicking around for a little bit, having that strong base is one of the biggest hurdles to get through. The next big hurdle, once it is refiled and it has a new bill number and we send that to you, we can share it out to the art community's Facebook page or to this, and you'll have a link to that, and you can watch the bill. There's 7,000 bills that are filed.
That's
every
right.
session.
It is amazing.
It's a lot. But with that link, you can watch it and it will say when it's moved to a hearing, what's the date of the hearing, and what's happening. And that's also where being involved in newsletters and these Facebook groups is so important, so that when the Revere art community knows, they can post it. When the Mass Cultural Council knows, they're going to send out a list of their priorities
Big
every
time.
session.
Yes.
And being signed up for those newsletters and being signed up for those emails, those groups are really the groups that push the knowledge out of what's happening, because Rep Turco and I each have 30 of our own pieces of legislation that we're responsible for calling the people that we file them for, whether it's for an injured police officer that worked in Revere, or whether it's for someone in the DPW in Winthrop, or some local amendment that we're working on. That's our main focus. And then there's the hundreds of other bills that we are signed on to and say, you know what, this is a great idea like this. I support it. So I would say the biggest hurdle is going to be getting people out there.
All right. And here's the challenge, because if we do get people to take and commit, that allows us to cross over to the private sector and have them do matching or close to matching funds for projects that we're going to do, because they see the state as believing in this, and that increases the dollars and the ability to take and do what we want to do as a community.
It also shows buy-in. I'll tell you, with my other hat, I serve as the vice chair on the Committee of Economic Development.
Yep.
And something about that public-private partnership is so important in our state, because public and private partners alike want to know that you have skin in the game. So if I'm a private developer and I see the city has skin in this game, they want this to work, or vice versa. If the city knows, okay, there are other people that are interested in this, that have an investment in this, it gives you both a little bit of reinsurance, so that when you're working on these kinds of projects, it benefits everyone. The private developer or the private company is going to get beautiful, an art exhibit or a mural or some sort of performance collaboration or photography. Who knows? There's so many different medias.
Absolutely. It's endless what can
Yeah.
be provided. And I've spoke with our friends at HYN, Rachel, Dave, and they have an interest as long as we can provide what we're talking about. Look at how the yard in Beachmont turned out with a beautiful mural across that wall. There's more spaces for that. That place is going to be a wonderland when it's eventually done, when you walk in there. And it is Beachmont Station, not Wonderland. But yeah, it's going to be a good thing. But there's the ability to do that as communities, which we have done in some things, but never for the arts and culture and the communities that it represents in Revere. So anything else you'd like to talk about on this subject right here? We've been chabbing and jibbing for a little bit.
No, I'm excited. It's a lot of work. Again, just laying it out bluntly, there's a lot of work ahead of us. But I think working together, if we can energize the art community, if we can energize not just in this area, but around the Commonwealth, if we can energize that community to realize the benefit for our kids, for our adults, seniors, and just our community writ large, I think that there's an opportunity to move this thing forward.
It just isn't us. There's other cities that should at least verbally and written have a little, as Jessica says, skin in the game. I've reached out to Chelsea, Lynn, Everett. They all have interest in it. Mass Cultural Council gal is up in Lynn there. And she's like, we'd like to work with that with you. So there's good future, but it is going to take a bit of work. I want to thank you both for you coming on and for you leading this. You co-sponsored right away. That made me so proud about that. So I know Jessie has a thing for the arts. Yeah. She might be known as Jessica Facts Figures Data Giannino. But she does have a big liking for the arts, that's for sure. So let's say goodbye to your constituents.
Yeah, thank you for an opportunity to come into your viewing world and have an opportunity to talk about this important legislation. I look forward to working with the Dean of the Revere delegation, my friend Rep Giannino, and with Brian and with Senator Edwards and so many others, Mayor Keefe, on trying to push this at all levels so we can get this thing done once and for all. And look forward to hearing from you over the next year with some feedback on what your priorities are. Thank you.
And we will have a link to all this information to get to the state reps. And Jessica.
Absolutely. I can't wait to hear your stories as we talk about testimony and start to gather stories from our residents. For me, and the reason why art is so personal to me, it's someplace that I've always found peace. In such a stressful world with such stressful careers, I love going out and taking pictures. I love taking the time to sketch something, to listen to music, to watch a performance, to be active in the art community, even though I'm not one of the more talented artists. It makes me happy and it brings me peace. And I think when you talk to your legislators, tell your story. You know, maybe it helped someone overcome a disability. Maybe it helped you overcome a language barrier. Maybe it helped you in an economic situation that you didn't know you'd find yourself in. But sharing those stories with your fellow artists and with each other is really what makes this community as beautiful and diverse and as exciting as it is. So I really look forward to hearing those stories. Brian, I want to thank you for having us with you today.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Both, we've tried a few times to get this together. We've put this curse behind us. I want to say, Jessica, I've seen your stuff, and humility is one of the best forms of art. You definitely have some pretty stuff you put together.
Brian, if I can interrupt you then because of that, so you're the only one that I've ever heard refer to her as Jessie. I view her more as a pit bull because when I see her up at the State House, when I see her up at the State House, when she wants something done, she is just an incredible.
Oh, I know that. I know that.
Yeah, so Jessie might sort of suggest the soft side, but I think it's more the pit bull, of the delegation. So
well, I did mention data and a little bit electronic wise. Yeah, I know that the info is right and it comes from and it's understood and it's planned for when you get with Jessie.
Absolutely.
I have a little OCD. It's okay.
I do want to say to everyone out there, this is a big call for us. We've got the city lined up so far from everyone I've spoken to. They're like, yes, yes, yes. We get behind it. That yes has become a vote, and that vote helps us reach out. We've reached out to other communities. Norman Abbott from Mass Area Planning Agency is going to get a copy of this. He asked for it. They're going to use it. You can see it on the Legacy Revere television. Hopefully, we're going to put together later next year a piece at Revere TV and get you guys and the senator and city representatives and maybe some representatives from some other cities all together and talk about this with the community itself. So this is Brian Harkins with Jeff Turco, Jesse Giannino on the RAC from the Revere Art Community. Thank you and have a good day.
Take care.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Revere Art Community on the RAC podcast, a bi-monthly series brought to you by the Revere Art Community at Las Carentas and Chocolate Cafe, where we sit and talk with artists from the Revere community about how they do what they do and sometimes why they do it, with a little bit of focus on making sure that they're able to market and make a little bit of income from this. Welcome to On the RAC. We welcome artists of all backgrounds, ages, abilities, and experience levels. Every story matters. Every voice deserves to be heard. We create a safe, respectful space for artistic expression. We honor the rich tapestry of culture that we call Revere, our home, and we recognize that art is a powerful bridge between communities. Again, welcome to On the RAC.